Welcome back to the Theory of Motivation. I'm Dr. Reg Butterfield talking to you about process theories of motivation. This is our second video of the series, and if you have not watched the introduction video, I strongly recommend you to do so as it puts the whole subject of motivation into context. In our last video, the first in the series of motivation, we briefly described motivation. We then described the two main roles of motivation, and this was followed up by the introduction of the idea of three groups of motivational theories: internal, process, and external. This was followed by the introduction and the distinguishing between the two main groupings of motivation theory: content and process theories of motivation. And finally, we introduced briefly some of the early philosophers who had an impact on the understanding of motivation. We are now exploring what is meant by the process theory of motivation. There have been many writers on the subject of process motivation theories, and during this series of videos we will concentrate on three major approaches and leading writers. The first is Vroom's expectancy theory. This is followed by Adams' equity theory, and then Locke's goal-setting theory. In this video, we will concentrate on Vroom's expectancy theory of motivation. The others are discussed in videos 3 and 4 of the series. Before moving into Vroom's theory, let's clarify what is meant by process theories of motivation. The psychological and behavioral processes that motivate a person to act in a particular way are referred to as process theories of motivation. A formal definition typically found in textbooks states that process theories of motivation are about a cognitive, rational process and concentrate on the psychological and behavioral processes that motivate an individual. What does that mean? Using our basic motivation model from the introductory video, put simply, this is all about how people's needs influence and drive their behavior. However, people need to see what is in it for them, and they need a sense of fair play is being exercised to all concerned. I'm now going to explain the first process motivation theory in our series, Vroom's expectancy theory. So let's move into the theory and its application. The underlying basis of expectancy theory is that people are influenced by the expected results of their action. It assumes that behavior results from conscious choices among alternatives, whose purpose it is to maximize pleasure and to minimize pain. It is probably the most widely accepted explanation of motivation. Motivation is the function of the relationship between the effort expended and perceived level of performance and the expectation that rewards, that's the desired outcomes, the things that people would like, will be related to performance. However, there must also be the expectation that those rewards, those desired outcomes, are actually available. These relationships determine the strength of the motivational link. Vroom realized that an employee's performance is based on individual factors such as personality, skills, knowledge, experience, and abilities. He stated that effort, performance, and motivation are linked in a person's motivation. He uses the variables expectancy, instrumentality, and valence to account for this. Expectancy is the belief that an increased effort will lead to increased performance. That is, if I work harder, this will be better. This is affected by such things as having the right resources available, such as raw materials, the time, equipment, and so on. Also having the right skills to do the job, and having the necessary support to get the job done. The support could be supervisor support, or correct information on the job, for example. Instrumentality is the belief that if you perform well, a valued outcome will be received. The degree to which a first level outcome will lead to the second level outcome. That is, if I do a job, there is something in it for me. This is affected by such things as clear understanding of the relationship between performance and outcomes. For example, the rules of the reward game in the organization. Trust in people who will take the decisions on who gets what outcome, and transparency of the process that decides who gets what outcomes. Valence is the importance that the individual places upon the expected outcome. For the valence to be positive, the person must prefer attaining the outcome to not attaining it. For example, if somebody is mainly motivated by money, he or she might not value offers of additional time off. I will now explain this again using a common example from work. When deciding whether to increase my work effort, I ask myself, if I work hard, will I get a bonus? If I perceive that my extra performance can meet the bonus criteria, then I'm inclined to work harder. However, I have the final condition to meet. That is, does the bonus meet my expectation? If yes, then I am motivated to work hard. If no, then I am not motivated. In summary, if all three elements of the process are positive, then motivation occurs. If any one or more of the three elements of the process are negative, then there is no motivation. Crucially, it's important to remember that Vroom's expectancy theory works on perceptions. So even if an employer thinks that they have provided everything appropriate for motivation, and even if this works with most people in that organization, it doesn't mean that someone won't perceive that it doesn't work for them. This underlines the importance of aligning an employee's reward system with individual expectations, as opposed to a one-size-fits-all approach that so many organizations employ. We will discuss this in our series on performance management. It is also important to note that expectancy theory can equally apply to any situation where someone does something because they expect a certain outcome. For example, I recycle paper because I think it's important to conserve resources and take a stand on environmental issues, and this is the valence. I also think that the more effort I put into recycling, the more paper I will recycle, and this is expectancy. And finally, I think the more paper I recycle, the less resources will be used, hence the instrumentality. We have now reached the end of this explanation of Vroom's expectancy theory of motivation. We have explained what process theory means. We introduced three process theories: expectancy theory, equity theory, and goal-setting theory. We have now explained the first of the process theories, Vroom's expectancy theory of motivation. The next video in this series is the second of the three process theories of motivation, Locke's equity theory. It's now time for you to move on and enjoy video 3.